Have you ever felt it? That sudden silence in a room where someone once lived. The way the air shifts, as if time has paused and something unseen has entered. A whisper in your heart. A pull in your chest when you think of someone who has passed. It's not your imagination. It's not just grief. Because the dead, they are not sleeping in some cold, forgotten silence. They are not gone. They are more alive now than they ever were in flesh, and they are closer to you than your own breath. Right now, this very moment, they're doing something. They're moving, learning, healing, serving. Some are watching over you. Some are still grieving with you, and some are waiting for you. The question isn't just what happens after we die. It's more sacred than that. What are they doing now, while we're still here? Searching, hurting, loving. You see, death doesn't end the story. It opens a door. And tonight, we're going to walk through that door together. Close your eyes for a moment, not literally, but inwardly. Can you feel the boundary between this world and the next? It's thin, almost translucent, and just beyond it, they are waiting. Not as ghosts, not as memories, but as souls in motion. When the body releases its final breath, something beautiful happens. Not darkness, not fear, but lightness. A clarity so profound, it silences every fear you ever carried. And the soul, your soul, steps out, not lost, but finally found. The dead awaken into a realm shaped not by bricks or dust, but by vibration, energy, intention, memory. And they don't awaken alone. The first to greet them are not strangers. They are the ones they loved most. Parents, siblings, children, even beloved pets. Their presence is not just symbolic. They arrive with purpose, to remind the soul that love was never temporary, that love outlives death, always. But not every soul awakens instantly. Some rise slowly, like surfacing from a deep dream. And in that liminal space, they are surrounded by guides, luminous beings who have walked with them long before this life began. These guides don't speak. They don't need to. They radiate understanding, and their only mission is to hold the soul in truth. There is no hospital room now, no machines or pain. But the soul, newly freed, often carries wounds that can't be seen. Grief, regret, confusion. And so, there are healing places, sacred sanctuaries made of light and vibration, where the soul is gently restored. The dead don't vanish, they recover. Some are bathed in colors not known to earth. Others are enveloped in sound, music that cleanses, harmonies that awaken dormant parts of their eternal being. Time doesn't pass here the way it does for you. A moment may feel like a year, a century like a breath. But as the soul stabilizes, it begins to understand. It is not in a place of punishment, nor in a paradise of idleness. It has arrived in a school, a temple, a workshop for the eternal. So what do the dead do now? They learn. They study the echoes of their choices. They review the patterns of their lives, not in shame, but in sacred clarity. You see, there is no courtroom, no gavel, no divine scale. The harshest judge is the soul itself, and it doesn't condemn, it remembers. It feels, with unbearable honesty, every smile it created, and every wound it left. Not as a movie, but as sensation. The laughter of the child it comforted, the pain of the stranger it ignored. And this review is not linear. It's woven like a tapestry. Threads of love, threads of anger, patterns of forgiveness, patterns of fear. And through it all, the soul sees that the greatest lessons, the most sacred, were never in the triumphs, but in the breaking, the betrayals, the illnesses, the nights of loneliness, because in the wound is the awakening. And here, in this realm beyond death, that awakening becomes action. Souls begin to take roles again, not to return to Earth, not yet, but to serve. They become healers, guides, messengers. Some work in celestial hospitals, tending to other souls still arriving, still confused. Some teach, not with books, but with vibration, transmitting wisdom like song through silence. Some create art, geometry, frequencies of beauty that ripple through dimensions and reach us as dreams, visions, or sudden knowing. And yes, some return to you. Right now, someone you've lost may be near you, not haunting, not watching in sadness, but working in subtle ways. That whisper of intuition, that feeling to call someone you love, that strange peace you felt after a night of tears, that was them. They are not gone. They are transformed, and they are active. They walk through veils you cannot see, influencing the world in ways that feel like chance, but are not. They protect, they guide, they intervene when they can. Not because they're assigned to you, but because they still love you. And in the next breath, we'll walk deeper into their world to understand the cities of spirit, the missions of the soul, and the sacred labor the dead take on now, for us and for all creation. If you could step beyond the veil just for a moment and witness the places where the dead now dwell, you would not find endless rows of tombstones or clouds filled with idle souls. You would find cities glowing like stars, built not from stone but from intention, structures that respond to thought, gardens that hum with the vibration of peace, schools where silence teaches more than words ever could. These are not fantasies. They are not symbolic metaphors. They are spiritual realities, layers of existence that interlace with our own, invisible to the human eye, yet more alive than anything you've ever touched. The dead do not rest in peace. They rise into purpose. Some find themselves in vast healing chambers, attended by souls who once lived many lives as physicians, midwives, or caretakers. But here, they no longer use hands or tools. They use light, frequencies of remembrance. They help the newly departed remember what they are: eternal beings, never truly broken, never truly lost. Others awaken in learning halls where knowledge flows directly from soul to soul, not read, but absorbed like sacred rain. They learn the laws they once doubted: karma, intention, the ripple of energy through time. They begin to see how their smallest acts, a word, a glance, a decision, echoed not just through their own life, but through generations. They study their lineage. They recognize the lessons passed down through blood and the ones they came to heal. And there are artists here. Yes, artists. Because creativity is a divine impulse, and many souls continue the work of creation long after leaving the body. Painters whose brushes are now intention. Musicians whose songs can alter frequencies in the human world. They pour their visions into the dreamscapes of the living, planting seeds of inspiration in those who are open to receive. The dead are not isolated. They are interconnected to each other and to us. Spiritual families reunite. Old bonds reform, not bound by time, but by soul signature. They recognize each other not by face, but by frequency. And in these reunions, there is no drama, no resentment, only clarity. The kind that brings tears, even to a soul. And some of those souls choose service. They return to the edges of the earthly world, not in flesh, but in light. They become protectors, consolers, messengers. You felt them. In the moment you nearly fell, but didn't. In the grief that felt unbearable, until suddenly, it wasn't. In the stranger who said exactly what you needed to hear. They walk beside nurses in hospital rooms, whispering courage. They sit with parents in midnight despair, wrapping them in unseen warmth. They stand beside children lost in fear, sending bursts of wonder into their dreaming minds. And sometimes, they try to reach you more directly, not through magic, not through ritual, but through resonance. They speak in dreams, not symbols, but visits. You wake, remembering their face, their voice, their hug, so vivid it aches. That wasn't memory. That was communion. They send signs, lights flickering, songs repeating, scents arriving without source. You dismiss them, and yet your soul knows. They call through intuition, those thoughts that feel like your own, but come from somewhere else. The knowing that arrives without logic, the decision that felt like guidance. They are trying. But communication is not always easy. It depends not on desire, but on frequency. Just as a radio cannot tune into a broadcast if the station is off by even a fraction, your ability to sense them depends on vibration. And most people, caught in the noise of this world, are not listening. But you can learn. You can remember. Because you too are a soul in a body. And the same way they reach toward you, you can reach toward them. Not with rituals or incantations, but with stillness, with presence, with love. Call to them not with words, but with your heart. In the silence, in the moments before sleep, in the spaces between thoughts, and listen. Because they are not gone. They are changed. Some of them are preparing, not for return, but for responsibility. For missions that span realms. There are spirits who operate like emergency teams, responding to cries of pain on Earth. They don't heal with medicine. They heal with memory. They remind the suffering of who they truly are. Others serve as whisperers to artists, teachers, healers, planting thoughts like sacred seeds that blossom as songs, insights, or movements that shift the world. There are even those who guard entire regions, light anchors, protecting cities from spiritual collapse. Not through force, but through frequency. And the most evolved among them, they don't need to intervene. Their very presence radiates such high resonance that darkness cannot exist near them. They simply are, like stars. And their being changes everything. Right now, someone you love is doing sacred work, not in your world, but for your world. And in the next breath, we'll journey deeper into the missions they take on, the mistakes they still try to heal, and the ways they influence the living far more than we realize. Because the dead are not waiting. They are working, and some are working for you. Not every soul that crosses the veil does so gracefully. Some carry a weight too heavy for even death to lift. You may have felt them, not in light, but in confusion. That strange heaviness in certain places, the sense of being watched, but not in fear, in sadness. The dead, too, can get lost. These are not evil spirits. They are not monsters. They are souls in pain, souls who clung too tightly to the physical world, or who could not forgive themselves for what they did or didn't do. Imagine someone who died suddenly, violently, in war, in accident, by their own hand. They wake, but they don't know they're dead. They walk through a replica of their life, trying to speak, trying to be seen. But no one answers, and slowly, they realize they've been left behind. But they haven't. Even now, they are not abandoned. There are beings, gentle, patient, luminous, who dedicate themselves to guiding these lost ones home. They appear in forms the soul will recognize: a grandmother's smile, a trusted friend, even a pet. They sit beside them in the dark, not forcing, but waiting, not preaching, but reminding. Because in the afterlife, nothing is ever truly final. There is no eternal damnation, only distance from light, and that distance can always be crossed. Some souls resist, out of guilt, out of fear, out of a belief rooted in life that they are unworthy of forgiveness. They carry shame like armor. They hide from love, convinced it will burn, but it won't. Because love in the spiritual world is not judgmental. It's not earned. It's not conditional. It simply waits, endlessly, for the moment the soul is ready to return to it. And when that moment comes, when the soul finally surrenders, a kind of spiritual rebirth begins. These are some of the most powerful transformations in all of creation. A soul once lost in darkness becomes a guide for others in shadow. Their empathy, born of suffering, becomes their sacred gift. They walk beside those who are still confused, still grieving, still afraid. Because the dead, too, evolve. They do not become perfect the moment they leave the body. They grow, they heal, they rise, sometimes slowly, sometimes with a surge of clarity that sets their entire being ablaze with new purpose. And when that purpose is awakened, something miraculous happens. They begin to work. In realms you cannot see, they organize like teams, not with titles or hierarchies, but through resonance and calling. Some work in rescue, traveling through dense vibrational zones to reach those who are stuck. Others become messengers, carrying light into the minds of the living, planting inspirations that will one day bloom into great changes. There are even those who become architects, not of buildings, but of opportunity. They shape the subtle events that line up in your life. The stranger you meet by chance, the job offer that arrives out of nowhere, the illness that teaches you everything you were ignoring. They are not controlling your destiny. They are helping build the scaffolding through which your soul can grow. And some, yes, some, return again. But not in the way you might think. Before reincarnation, there is preparation. And this is one of the most sacred tasks the dead undertake. Because reincarnation is not random. It is not roulette. It is divine architecture. When a soul prepares to return to Earth, it doesn't do so alone. Spiritual guides assist. Ancient councils oversee. But most of all, the soul reflects on what it learned, what it missed, what it's ready for. The soul chooses parents, not for comfort, but for growth. Sometimes even choosing hardship, poverty, illness, or rejection, not as punishment, but as curriculum. Because the soul is not here for ease, it's here for evolution. The body, the gender, the gifts and challenges, all of it is selected with intention. And sometimes, other spirits, those you loved in past lives, volunteer to return with you, to play roles again as friends, lovers, rivals, even enemies. These are soul contracts, made not out of karma alone, but out of love, out of devotion to growth. And while some souls return, others stay behind, to watch over, to protect, to ensure you don't forget who you are. So right now, as you live your life, as you grieve, struggle, hope, and fall, know this: there are souls, your souls, who are working tirelessly behind the veil to help you remember your path. The dead are not gone. They are not waiting idly in clouds. They are busy. They are alive. And some are preparing miracles for you. In the next breath, we will journey into the higher realms, the luminous cities where the most evolved spirits dwell, and where the dead continue their sacred work for humanity, for Earth, and for love itself. There are places in the afterlife so radiant, so beyond the limits of human thought, that even the most poetic minds fall silent when they try to describe them. These are not heavens made of gold or harps and clouds. They are not rewards. They are states of consciousness, realms of frequency, where the soul becomes light not only in form, but in essence. To reach these realms is not about perfection. It is about surrender, surrendering the false self, the need to control, the need to be right, or praised, or powerful. What rises here is what's left after all illusions dissolve. And not all who rise this high were known in life for greatness. Some were quiet healers. Some were mothers who forgave more than they ever received. Some were children who suffered silently, but loved fiercely. What matters is the vibration they carried, and what they became through love. In these luminous plains, there are no buildings in the way we imagine them. But there are cities, living fields of intention, beauty, and harmony. There are learning temples woven of sound, color, and silence. Gardens that respond to thought, where a flower might open because you remembered who you are. Souls do not rest here. They create, they collaborate, they evolve. They study the sacred sciences, vibration, geometry, resonance. They understand how universes are formed, not just from matter, but from meaning. They learn how consciousness ripples across timelines, how healing in one soul echoes into thousands, and how intention, pure, uncluttered, divine, is the seed of all reality. Here, love is not a feeling, it is a force. It moves like light, shapes like wind, expands like breath. And the souls that live here still care for Earth, not with hands, not with words, but with emanation. Their presence becomes a stabilizing field, like a song always humming beneath the chaos of the world. Their love becomes a shelter for the weary, a whisper in the heart of those about to give up. They touch without touching. They awaken without speaking. When you feel inexplicably calm in a moment of disaster, when beauty breaks into your sorrow like sunlight through thunderclouds, when forgiveness blooms in you where anger used to live, that may be them. They are not absent. They are everywhere love is born without reason. Some of them, those who have evolved through lifetimes of service, become soul architects. They assist other spirits preparing to reincarnate. They help design the paths that lead through fire into freedom, not by removing pain, but by illuminating purpose. Others work in collective grids, patterns of energy surrounding humanity. They maintain balance during planetary shifts. They direct streams of healing to regions overcome by suffering. They plant the seeds of awakening in places most forgotten by hope. And some become silent companions to artists, scientists, healers, whispering insights too subtle to be traced, yet too powerful to be ignored. You've seen their touch in the hands of a surgeon who saves a life they can't explain, in a poet who writes words they don't remember thinking, in a moment of peace that descends on a battlefield without reason. This is how they work, not with spectacle, but with sacred precision. The higher the realm, the less personal the service, but the more universal its impact. Souls here are not tied to one being or one life. They serve humanity as a field, an atmosphere, a luminous breath that calls us home to ourselves. Yet for all their scope, they never forget the ones they loved. Even in this radiant existence, your name echoes in their light. Your voice, your pain, your laughter, they remember it. Because love does not dissolve in ascension. It expands. It becomes more. And in moments when your heart cracks open, from sorrow, from awe, from truth, they are closer than breath, not looking down on you, but walking beside you as they always have. The distance between their world and yours is thinner than you think. A shift in vibration, a silence in the right place, a love deep enough to reach across dimensions. They are not resting. They are not sleeping. They are living deeply, luminously, endlessly, as the very force that guides the unfolding of all that is sacred in this life and the next. There are moments in life that feel orchestrated, a conversation overheard that speaks directly to your struggle, a detour that leads you to exactly where you were meant to be, a person entering your life at the precise moment your heart was ready. We call them coincidences, but the soul knows better. Because behind so many of these moments is a quiet force, a presence unseen, but intimately familiar. The dead are not watching us from a distance. They are involved, invested, moving through our world in ways too subtle for the eyes, but too precise for chance. Not because they are assigned to us, but because they love us. Because in the realm beyond, love becomes a force, not an emotion, but a mission. There are souls who devote themselves to protection. They stand near those they cherished in life, not as ghosts, but as guardians. Their role is not to control your destiny, but to nudge, to guide, to open one door while quietly closing another. You felt them in the near miss that defied logic, in the moment you nearly fell apart, only to be held by an unseen peace, in the knowing that a certain choice was wrong, even when everything said it was right. These interventions are never dramatic. They are elegant, software, and always aligned with free will. They cannot override your path, but they can illuminate it. There are also souls who become emotional healers. They don't speak to your ears, but to your heart. They sit with those in grief, surrounding them with frequencies of memory, of hope, of quiet presence. If you've ever wept into your pillow and suddenly felt not alone, if a warmth came over you that couldn't be explained, or a scent from childhood floated through the room, you were not imagining it. They come close when we are most open, when our defenses fall, when our pain peels back the layers we use to protect ourselves from the world. That is when they touch us, and sometimes they warn us. But not with booming voices or ghostly shadows. They speak through intuition, through dreams, through sudden feelings of unease or knowing. A soul who once walked beside you may still whisper into your decision-making, not because they fear your mistakes, but because they want you to grow without unnecessary suffering. And some take on even greater missions. There are souls who align themselves with entire communities, nations, even causes. Their focus is not just one life, but a wave of lives, helping to shift collective consciousness in times of turmoil. They stand behind movements for justice. They anchor light in places overwhelmed by darkness. They stir awakenings in artists, writers, leaders, reminding them, subtly, of the truth they once knew but forgot. And then there are the ones who touch the earth through your dreams. Because dreams are not just imagination, they are doorways. When your conscious mind sleeps, the veil between worlds thins. The spirit becomes more receptive, and those who've passed on step in. They visit not as symbols, but as themselves. You remember the dream. Maybe you woke in tears or joy or a sense of peace you couldn't explain. But the meeting was real. They came to reassure you, to tell you they are well, or to simply remind you, love does not end. Sometimes they come only once, sometimes again and again. Each time, they meet you at the level your soul is ready to receive. Not all dreams are this, but when they are, you'll know. There is also a deeper mystery, one we rarely speak of but often feel. There are moments when you feel you are being watched, not in fear, but in recognition, a presence, a soul near. You're sitting at a cafe. You suddenly think of someone long gone. The air changes. You feel warm. You feel seen. This too is their doing. Because death does not erase bonds. It refines them. Even now, some souls remain tied to you through sacred contracts. Not because they must, but because they chose to walk with you from the other side. They watch your evolution with reverence. They celebrate your joy. They mourn with you in silence. And they pray, not with words, but with energy. Prayer in the spiritual world is not begging or asking. It is offering vibration. They offer frequencies of hope, healing, and remembrance into your field. And if you are open, you receive it, not as a thought, but as a shift, a lightness, a whisper of grace. Right now, someone you loved is loving you still, not in past tense, not from memory, but with active, living devotion. And while you live your days under the sun, wondering where they've gone, they are just beyond the veil, hands extended not in sorrow, but in sacred presence. There is no ending, only transformation. The dead are still dreaming, still healing, still guiding. And some of them are waiting for the moment your soul will remember that nothing, not time, not death, not distance, can stop love from continuing its sacred work. Some souls return quickly, others wait, and some never return at all. But not because they are lost, because their work continues in ways that do not require a body. You see, death is not a full stop. It's a reorientation. A soul may leave Earth and yet remain deeply tied to it. Not for unfinished business, but for sacred responsibility. There are those who dedicate themselves to children. They gather around little ones born into suffering, those with illness, disability, or heavy karmic weight, not as punishment, but as part of a deeper unfolding. These souls, these guardians, wrap the child in love. They soothe what medicine cannot reach. They sing light into fragile nervous systems. They protect innocence from being entirely forgotten in a world that often tries to dim it. And though their presence may never be known, the impact is felt. You've seen it. A child who suffers, but radiates joy. A child whose touch changes a room. A child who seems ancient. These are not just children. They are teachers in tiny bodies, and they are not alone. Around them move protectors, souls who once lived, who chose with full awareness to remain close to Earth, to walk beside the youngest among us. And it doesn't end there. Some spirits become builders of fate, not manipulators, but master weavers. They work with what you might call divine timing. They coordinate the subtle meetings, the crossing of paths. They arrange the moment your soul bumps into someone it knew long before you were born. That glance across a crowded room, that call that came at just the right time, that book that fell off the shelf, onto your lap, and into your heart. They are behind these things, not controlling you, but aligning opportunities that resonate with your deeper purpose. And yes, they can also close doors, not to punish, but to protect. The job you didn't get, the relationship that fell apart before it began, the delay that made no sense at the time, but saved your life in ways you'll never fully understand. These are not accidents. They are acts of spiritual architecture, and many are built by those who once walked beside you. Imagine a soul who loved you in life, now acting as your silent advocate beyond the veil. A former partner, a best friend, a parent, a child, still loving, still guiding, still shaping the unseen edges of your path. And it isn't always those you knew. There are spirits who were strangers in life, but companions in other lifetimes. Souls who feel you vibrationally and step in because they recognize something ancient in you. They offer you insight. They appear in dreams as wise figures. They send a line of dialogue into your thoughts that feels older than your own voice. You may never know their names, but your soul does. And still, there are more. Some spirits remain in places, not trapped, but stationed. Temples, old forests, battlefields, sacred lands. They hold the vibration steady. They anchor memory. They protect thresholds between worlds. You've likely stood in one of these places, a room or landscape that hums with presence. You feel calm for no reason, or overwhelmed, or in tears, though no words have been spoken. These are thin places, as some traditions call them, and the dead, the luminous dead, keep vigil there. They are not stuck. They are serving the balance, serving remembrance, serving the soul of Earth itself. And then there are the Watchers, spirits who do not intervene, who do not guide, but simply witness, not with judgment, but with profound compassion. They hold presence in places of despair, hospitals, prisons, homes filled with silence, not to change outcomes, but to ensure that no suffering is ever unseen, that every cry, every final breath, every lonely ache is witnessed by a consciousness that once knew the same pain. Because sometimes being seen, truly seen, is the most healing thing of all. And these Watchers, they bring no messages, they carry no solutions, they bring presence, and presence is its own miracle. You may never feel them, but if you've endured pain and somehow came through it, if you fell to your knees and something in the air held you upright, you have met them. The dead are not only where we expect them to be. They are not bound by mourning or memory. They are among us, working, loving, shaping, anchoring, not to pull us into the past, but to help us remember who we truly are. Right now, they are whispering in the spaces between your thoughts, not asking for your sorrow, but offering you peace, not waiting to be remembered, but gently reminding you that they never truly left. They are still here, still alive, still in motion, like the wind you can't hold, but always feel. There are questions we carry that we rarely speak aloud. Do they miss us? Do they still think of us? Can they see what we've become? The answers don't arrive in words. They arrive in moments. A sudden emotion rising out of nowhere. A song that plays at the exact right time. A breeze that moves through a closed room when you're remembering them. They are not watching like spectators. They are remembering with you, living your memories, your love, your pain, from the other side. But they are not sad, because in the realm they now inhabit, love is not limited by form or time. They don't miss you with longing. They remain connected through presence. To miss someone is to be separate, and they know now we never truly were. Still, they feel you. Your joy sends ripples through the spiritual field, like the warmth of sunlight traveling into their world. And your grief draws them close, not out of pity, but because grief is sacred. It means something was real, and they honor that. They do not try to take your sadness away. They simply sit beside it. They become the calm in the room when tears fall. They soften your breath when it catches in your chest. They help you sleep when it feels like the night might never end. And sometimes, they answer. Not with voices or signs on command, but through moments of clarity that emerge from silence. You sit by a window, lost in memory, and suddenly you understand something they tried to teach you long ago. You feel them, not in form, but in essence. Not beside you, but within you. Because the most evolved of the dead do not hover around us. They merge with us, becoming part of the soul's own guidance system. What you call intuition, sometimes it's them. And the more you heal, the more your frequency changes. The easier it becomes to sense them. Spiritual sensitivity is not gifted, it is remembered, and remembering is an act of stillness. The dead speak in the spaces we usually fill with noise. They speak through nature, through art, through solitude. You've felt it, standing at the edge of the sea or beneath trees older than memory. That sudden sense that something vast and loving is holding you. That is their voice. And not all who come are from this life. There are souls who have been with you long before your current name, your current body. Old companions, soul teachers, guides who once walked beside you in lifetimes so far gone. They've become part of your spiritual DNA. They return when needed, not as strangers, but as remembering. You meet someone and feel an instant connection, or a sudden aversion, deeper than logic. These are not just reactions. They are soul echoes. And the dead, they echo too. Not always as individuals, but as presences, as quiet knowing. And what of those who died before their time? The young, the ones taken suddenly, the ones who left behind unfinished love stories, unborn dreams, aching spaces at the table. They are not frozen in what could have been. They are not incomplete. Time works differently where they are. Their soul continues to grow, to learn, to love. A child who died in infancy may now be an ancient spirit, watching over a parent with the quiet wisdom of eternity. Their love never stopped at the age they died. It expanded. And when you think of them, when you speak their name with tenderness or tears, they are there, not in mourning, but in gentle gratitude. Because your remembering gives them form, not physical, but spiritual. And then, there is something else, something most won't speak aloud. Do the dead forgive? The answer is not just yes, it's already. In the place they now reside, judgment has no purpose. They see the whole, the fear behind the betrayal, the pain behind the silence, the confusion behind the harm. They see your heart, not just what you did, but why. And even if you've never forgiven yourself, they already have. Forgiveness there is not a transaction. It is the natural state of truth. Because they now know what we forget. Every soul is learning. Every life is a classroom. And no one graduates without failing something. You are not being punished for your regrets, but you are being invited to release what the dead have already let go. They are not holding on to the version of you that hurt them. They are holding space for the version that is still trying to grow. And in the quiet hours, when guilt rises or shame visits, they come near. Not to accuse, but to comfort. Not because you owe them, but because they love you, still and always. There is one truth that lives beneath every sacred teaching, every mystic's whisper, every quiet moment of grief when the tears slow and something still remains. Love does not die. Not with the body, not with time, not even with forgetting. And those we've lost? They know this truth more fully now than we ever can while still wearing skin. Because they have seen it. They have stood beyond the veil and remembered what we came here to forget. That this world is not the whole of life. That the soul is not limited by the shape it wears. And that connection is eternal. Right now, someone you love is not just watching you. They are praying for you, not with folded hands, but with the pure, wordless longing of the soul. They are walking beside you in your joy, in your confusion, in your sleepless nights, in your quiet victories you never share. They celebrate with you. They grieve with you. And in moments when you cannot go on, they carry you silently. You may not hear them, but they are there, as breath is there, as gravity is there, as the unseen truth holding this life together. You do not have to believe in spirits to be loved by them. You do not have to speak to be heard. The dead are not waiting in some far-off paradise. They are woven into the fabric of your days, in the instincts that save you, in the wisdom that emerges when you thought you had none left, in the chance meeting, the gut decision, the quiet miracle. Some are still healing, some are still learning, some are rising higher than words can reach, but all of them are in motion. The spiritual world is not still. It breathes, it evolves, it pulses with intelligence, beauty, and purpose. And every soul, yours, theirs, ours, is part of that purpose. Even now, the dead are creating. They are helping shape the future of the earth. They are sending blueprints to those who will listen. They are guiding children who will one day awaken the world. They are mending the fractures between realms. They are loving, endlessly, those they once lost, and they are never alone. They have found each other again, old soulmates, lost family, soul tribes scattered across lifetimes. They remember everything now. They laugh in the way we forgot laughter could feel. They forgive with a depth that makes even regret dissolve. They build homes not from wood, but from resonance. They learn in places where light teaches more than words. They rest when needed, but even rest there is sacred work. And they wait, not in longing, but in trust. They wait for you, not because they need you, but because they remember the pact. The sacred agreement made long before your first breath, that you would come here, that you would forget, that you would struggle, and one day, that you would remember. They wait for that remembering, not of them, but of yourself, because your soul is not separate from theirs. And when the time comes, not in fear, not in pain, but in perfect alignment, you will cross that same veil. And when you do, you will not be greeted by judgment. You will not be measured. You will be met by the ones who loved you, by the ones you lost, by the ones who never left. They will not ask if you succeeded. They will ask if you grew, if you loved, if you forgave, if you remembered what it meant to be a soul in a human life. And then they will walk with you, not into heaven, but into truth. The truth that you were never alone, that you were always held, that even your worst moments were sacred, because they were shared by those who went before, by those who stayed behind, by those who will walk this path long after you return. This is the sacred work of the dead. They don't rest in peace. They live in presence. They labor in love. They evolve through service, and they wait, not for time to pass, but for light to return. And now, you remember too. So if you've ever asked, what are the dead doing now? The answer is simple. They are loving you, still, always, and far beyond the end.